mute first. First show back, and I have to unmute first. I got to mute you, shush. Headphones, I think it's working. I think it's all good. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
You got new bookshelves.
There it is. I
They look
had
great.
a hyperfixation moment after Christmas and realized I bought a bookshelf like 8 months ago and forgot. And so the books were stacking just disgustingly. Like, it was just vomiting books. And so I was like, I need to do something about it. Now, you can't really see it, but there's a plant hanging now. There's a plant. There's the dragon. I want to show everyone this dragon. KP Dub's got it made for me. You see the plant. KP Dub's got this dragon. Okay.
Currently reading thing on Twitch is blocking the dragon.
Oh, here it is. How cute it is! It's the Maude's Book Club dragon that's in a lot of the merch that the merch tier has been making, and it's the first time it's like been brought to life in a way. Long tail. Isn't that cute? So now it guards my book right here. There we go. Which is being covered by the currently reading, which is Starter Villain by John Scalzi. This is our bonus book. Really, before we get started, thank you so much for letting my audio is on the lower side. I actually turned it down because I was squawking.
Hey, the Discord camera got better.
Shut up. Did it really?
It really did.
Yeah,
It did, but why would you
I just happened to look over and I was like, hey, what happened?
It's almost fading in and out, but it is better in general.
Wow.
Why would you bring attention to that while it got better? It's like
It's really bright. Like,
to be cursed.
It's the camera's really bright, but
Yes.
other than that, but it doesn't look like a potato.
Yeah.
It's saturated, but it's not potato.
Oh, take the win.
I've
And-
evolved from potato, and I'm very excited about it. Discord,
went
It
back.
did.
Maude is still
Anyway,
very, very low. Maude is actually peaking on the microphone setting here. I have changed the position of my microphone so I can have it really close. Before, I could never really get it that close, and now it is close. Is it still low? Maude sounds fine to me. I will talk up a little bit, or I can figure out how to change the setting, which often, let's be honest, we'll just default reset sometimes to like Maude's too loud. We will make her permanently quiet. I mean, that's what happens just by being a woman on the internet. So I don't need the computer to do it to me as well. I must be loud. I would be loud today. Oh no, she's tired. We all know that. Tired Maude. This sounds. Oh, here it is. It defaults back to 61% every time. Why you do that to me, I do not know. My computer, but how's that sounding? This must be frying your brains out. Perfect now. All right. We're getting there. Bonus book. We've got 2 books for January. We've locked in 2 for February. Even though I want to squeeze in Onyx fucking Storm. I want to get that book in there because a couple of you are kind of keen to continue that series, even if it's just to hate read and comment on it. I'm a bit of a Zayn Ryerson giggler. I don't know what else to say. So I'm all cool reading it. Robin says, I will 100% hate read it. Yes. Okay. I love it. Do I like Violet as a character? Not even a little bit. Are these books extremely flawed? You betcha. What the hell, Catch? I just noticed.
What happened?
I think you tripped and fell and you gifted subs.
Oh, that happens. I'm working.
So clumsy. Colleen's going to sit that one out. Let's read out some gifted subs because it is January and this is the first stream of the year, even though we're halfway through this year already. First half of the year, like a refund. I didn't like it. For those that don't know, I live in LA. The city is on fire. It's better now. But last week, not one but two. Raiden! Not one but 2 different fires were threatening my location. And I will say that when you have to panic pack your life up in about 10 minutes. And people had been sort of posting, make sure you pack. And it's like a long list. And I'm like, I have to make choices. I'll tell you right now, I forgot to pack my visa documentation. So if my apartment were to have burnt down, not great. I also just had this overwhelming feeling where it's like, well, if I can not really take everything, I don't want to take anything. Like what's one or two things? So I looked at the bookcase. I took a photo of the bookcase of the books I would need to replace maybe. But essentially it was like my passport, some cash. I forgot my pajamas, toiletries bag, 2 laptops, even though I use my PC. I don't think I've used these laptops in like one of them. My MacBook, gone. I'm with Alienware, bitch. Like I have good stuff, but I'm on my PC. So I was just like, all right, that's fine. And I took Zelda, and Zelda had like, you know, a week's worth of food. I think I had 1 pair of underpants. It's like priorities are set. Got it. Dog
More
safe.
for Z than you.
Yeah, that's it. I was like, what does she need in this crisis? Because I need her. So what does she? Basil didn't read the book, just started playing Marvel Rivals. Basil, you come back here right now and you tell me who you are maining in Marvel Rivals, and if this is what we're going to play for our game on stream happening this Saturday afternoon, head to patreon.com/Maude'sBookClub. We have a gaming stream tier where we're playing a little bit of Marvel Rivals, even though KP Dubs, I know you don't like those kind of games, so I'm still keen to revisit our Stardew Farm. Vaden, you were very sweet for doing this. You have unraveled my life. Vaden sent me a game called Fields of Mystria, and that shit is crack. I have been not just dabbling, I will like try to do all of my work by like 2 or 3 o'clock, and I have to pry myself from the computer at midnight because I cannot stop playing this game. It is so good. So thank you. Also, screw you, because the hours of my life have been put. It's okay. So for those that don't, it's like Stardew Valley, but they've cleaned up all the things that were a little bit clunky about it. And you're all Fae, I think, and everyone's great. I love all the members in this town. I love them all. They are so great. There is the guy who runs the general store that only does puns. He's like the dad joke dad. He's great. There's a blacksmith, the brother. They're brothers. One of them's so nice, and he's like jacked, and he's like, oh my God, yeah, when I flex, my muscles look big. I'm like, you are gorgeous. But he's not romanceable, but his brother, who's an asshole, is. And I'm like, enemies to lovers, let's go. Why am I trying to impress a guy who clearly hates me? Don't know. This game's got me. Anyway, this is not an ad. This is just my new hyperfixation, and I love it. Jay Buntrock's been playing Indiana Jones, getting 100% on that. Well done. Oh my God, only 12 more swears until I'm at 1,000. KB Dub says my team is in the football playoffs. Why did you think I would care?
Well, that's game night, so I got a hard out at 8 p.m. my time, so sorry. I was making you not feel bad for like leaving me out if you got to play Marvel Rivals or whatever.
Oh, okay. We might do Marvel Rivals in the second part then. They're still playing that game? Have they not played it?
Super Bowl's what, February 9th? We got basically a whole month to go.
It's a lot.
Football needs to calm down.
Like a $20 billion a year industry.
That's fantastic. Love it. Darren says his team is historically awful, but this year they're really good. My favorite part about Darren's comment is that he's assuming I know what the team is, which I do not. Christina says, I'm a Shane and Haley girly, so enemies to lovers it is. Christina, that was such a confession because Shane is an actual piece of shit, deadbeat, and Haley is punchable on a good day. I don't condone violence. Haley needs to be smacked around in a more, don't finish that sentence. It's like if the Perth team was suddenly good for rugby. That's great. That's a great Maude proof comment that makes sense. So go Perth. You're going for Perth. Yeah. Awesome. Gamers has been playing Fallout 4 and Skyrim because I heard Oblivion's getting a remake. Ooh, you love a good open world Bethesda game, I see. Except the last Bethesda game was average. Starfield.
So bad.
Don't want to.
Let me tell you about Starfield. The first 10 hours, you're like, what am I doing? The next 20 hours, you're like, okay, this is kind of fun. After that, you're like, oh, I stopped caring. You stopped making me care. I don't care. There you go. Is it an Oblivion remake instead of a sequel, says Pianki. Pianki, that's a name I haven't heard in the chat for a while. Lovely to see you in here. A big hello to everyone. I've already gotten sidetracked. You would think I could tell them.
Never read the gift subs. Never. Didn't even look
I
at
said,
them.
oh my God, and you just directed my attention back to, okay, I am Catch-22's debit card. Did you change the name or did you make a new account? Because they cut you off and I cut you off. We're not serving you at the bar anymore, Catch.
I'll never tell.
Oh my goodness. Catch, thank you. You said, yeah, that just happened. Catch has done a very generous donation, as did Vaden say. This doesn't help with the hype train, but we are at level 6. We were. Thank you so much for those generous donations. Adam says, hey, Maude, you're cool. 50 months. 50 months. Thank you so much. Robin says, I got so angry with Starfield. Like, I spent all my hours decorating my base and all my items ended up just clipping ththrough the floor. That sucks. That sucks. KP Dubs, I just saw that you gifted subs as well. Okay. Focus, Maude. Catch, thank you, you legend. Cutting you off. You're done. 2025. What rhymes with that? I'll come back. TBD. Thank Neil.
Hey, that's 1,000 swears.
I didn't say it.
Nope.
Stick said, and Stick says, ha, the mic was off and I hear it.
10 more, it'll be 1,000.
And Chris has gifted subs to Iceman, Creative Hubs, Gaia Darling, In Maude We Trust, and Catsy. Oh, yay. Some of those are listening right now. So make sure you say thank you to N Crisp. KP Dubs, you gifted subs to Red Jello, Christina. Christina got one. Carlos, Ponder Deeply, and Club Jiggle Jiggle. My money don't jiggle. Cat, you've gifted subs to EA Neil. It's in the name. Shake and Bake, J. Sia, and Crozier, Dazaka. Sprinkles, you got one. Pianki, you got one. Lovefish, Dom Fick, Aesthetic. I see what you're doing there. Doofut. Why does that sound so bad, but it's a completely harmless word? Doofut. I feel like you know what you're doing, but I don't even know what you're doing. Goodnight Moon, Worth Garion, Alt Matter, Answan Wingnum. That sounds like a roleplay character where you just, started pulling half names from a hat and melding it together. K Frito, you got one. K Frito, you lucky duck. You got a couple of subs in here. You know what's happening. Too Much BTP, Star Pilot 6, Wasabi Scott, Sarsaparilla, Maddie, you got one too. And Natrona Fats, you all got gifted subs thanks to Catch-22. Make sure you say thank you. Stream camera is fine for me. Good. What's going on with my stream camera now? What is happening with cameras? Neil, also thank you for the 46 months in a row. Airwolf, thank you for 22 months. I appreciate you. Robin, thank you for 31 months. Saying Book Dragon Hype. Aesthetic. Dude, you followed 11 minutes ago and you just got not only did you get a gifted sub, but you've managed to make me say ass twice because it's in your name. That's cheeky. Pun. Love it. Avery, thank you for 28 months. Terry, thank you for 52 months. Ali, thank you for 6. Faden, thank you for 51 months. Lisa, thank you for 21 in a row. 36 total. That's 3 years. Happy 3 years, boo. Look at us doing this. Woo-hoo. We got a ooh moment. Love it. And Lisa, thank you for all that you do for the book club too. I really appreciate it. Steph, we are on 11 months. J Bunt Rock, we're on 37 months. KP, this is like, we really do have stream anniversaries every month. It's very, guys, I'm having a moment. you know how I deal with sweetness and nice things. I try to squash it down because I'm hard inside. You're making me tear up. KP Does, thank you for 46 months. Aaron, thank you for 51 months. Catch, thank you for 36, 38 total. And for your donation, I'm cutting you off. I really want to send, I want to send you a t-shirt. I was cut off at Maude's Book Club. You're done. You're done. Yes, a big shout out to all the mods in the Discord. We have had a botademic. Is that
Maude, the thing is,
I resent that name.
Yeah, we need to figure a better name out for sure.
Maude, the thing is if you cut me off,
yeah,
next month when there aren't 22 gifted subs, you're gonna wonder what happened.
There are zero expectations I hope you know that.
You're just gonna be like the first stream of the month, and you'll just be there, and then you'll be like, "Huh."
No.
I didn't get a notification.
I will definitely set the record clear with that. There is zero expectation. I will just cry into my bill. No, I'm kidding. Zero expectations.
Just open up the bank. No.
Oh, my bank account's
We're
been crying.
On that tax write-off. I need a 1099 from you.
Honestly, you joke. I can get you one. I can get you one. You just have to claim that money, though. That's sort of the annoying part. I don't know how it all works. Pianki says she's got the entire Stormlight archive up there. I do. Tor Books sent me the Stormlight archives and a beautiful package in December. It was heavy. They're big books. I don't know if you've noticed this. We are going to eventually talk about Starter Villain. Sorry, guys. I just felt like we had a lot to catch up on because it is the first stream. Thank you for letting me push this back. Blah, blah, blah. Had to evacuate. Life's good now. Zell's great. I changed the set somewhat and we're getting back into reading, which is great. I've missed everyone. The bookcase will the bookcase fall under the weight because of all the books? I think it's I built it. So because of that, yes. But if anyone else did, maybe it would be better. Occult Stool is in the chat. Occult's a member of Maude's Book Club now. Golf claps. Who'll do it first? Everyone's actually clapping. Muted.
I did it for real.
Yeah, everyone's like, there we go. Sometimes we forget that we do have sound effects. That's one of the Member Plus perks. You can put any of the sound effects that we've uploaded in there, like this. Okay, the fact that two of you decided to do any random one and it was, I think, the same, that's fantastic.
Hey, listen.
Occult Stool is locked out of members chat. I mean, that's absolutely accidental and we'll do something about it. Maddie, do we know why that could happen? It is inconceivable. How did something like that happen? Academic says, I would like to have hotkeys for sound effects. I should. Maddie, in all caps, is saying, I'm fixing it. No, I don't know.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Oh, see, sometimes they just chef's kiss. It's great. Jeff, I think your camera has frozen. Otherwise, we are boring the shit out of you. I'm giggles.
Screenshot that. Just clip that.
If you can't see it, which is nearly everyone, everyone's little video is in the Discord right now, and Jeff is like obviously gone to say something, but it's like and it's stuck like that. I can't look. It's killing me. Oh, God. Welcome to Maude's Book Club. We will bore you to death. Slogan. Lock it. Tate, thank you so much for 18 months in a row. 21 total. Appreciate you. All right. Let's chat about Starter Villain. This is a relatively shorter book. It was only 7 hours on the Audible. How long did it take everyone to read?
It was like maybe
I listened to most of it
Recording.
today.
12
So.
hours total. I did it mostly over 2 different days.
Over 2 days.
Yeah.
We're trying to do palatable, easy books for bonus books, especially if we've got a bigger book happening for the rest of the month, which we do with Lightbringer, which I've got right. Sorry, Dragon. We've got right here. This is going to be part 1 and part 2, breaking this down. I'm so excited to confirm we will have Pierce Brown, the author, back for a Q&A specifically pertaining to Lightbringer. So we've had him for every single book thus far in the series. He had to evacuate as well, so it's a bit touch and go for what this month looks like. But I'm very excited to continue the Red Rising saga. For those that have read it or are currently reading it, can I get a non-spoiler input? Maybe one word?
Cats.
Love it.
Hold on. I was talking about Lightbringer, but I love that you just screamed cats. With no context, that's wonderful. That's the best ever.
Perfect.
Yeah, there it is. Lightbringer is amazing. Is that what you were saying? Redemption. Love a bit of redemption. KBW says, look, I wasn't listening to you. Sorry. That's because, yeah, we're fighting because I said I didn't like sport, which is fine.
Listen.
Which is fine. Jay Bunt Rock says, I've got 250 pages left in Dark Age. I'm so sorry.
I'm on chapter 20 of Lightbringer so far.
And this is Catch reading a book, so
21. I'm on chapter 21 of Lightbringer.
how are you enjoying it?
You knew I was going to read this one.
Yeah.
I'm actually really enjoying it.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Heard it here first from Catch 22. Really enjoying a Maude's Book Club book pick. Robin, you're on 37. I know. Lovely to have you back. Darren's on chapter 37. What is going on in 37? Thierry's on 47. Darren, can I get a word, a non-spoiler word of how these chapters have been going?
Good. I'm also still of the mind that Darrow should not be a point of view chapter.
Oh, still.
He's so many.
I'm continuing.
I love it. The discourse that's starting over this book, I mean, it was a little bit there, Darren. You've always sort of thought that ever since Iron Gold, but I mean, I kind of had your back big time, Jeff. You have just an unfiltered disdain for these books, and I think it's so funny. I think it's so funny because, of course, I don't agree with you, and that's the best part. And you can be like, this is why this is just really rubbing me the wrong way. And I'm like, I had the best time reading it. And both of us are right, because that's what opinions are all about. So I do welcome these sorts of opinions. Oh, I think that's a little spoilery, so I'm not going to read it. Oh, I think I disagree with you already, Robin, but I'm still not reading that out because we're getting a little spoilery, which is fine, but we're looking forward to it. I'm only on chapter 2. I'm going to be reading this and not listening to it. I like to read this book with tabs and a pencil and get through it because there's just some beautiful. Actually, I do want to read a line which I just think is so beautiful. I'm going to get onto this other book, I promise. The second page in. Was it? Maude, you have a show. They want to listen. They want to go with it. It was just such good exposition of where he's at. Oh, here it is. I started this war. Others are finishing it. I must escape. Atlantia must die. Atlas must die. Lysander must die. I picture them each groveling before me, my ears deaf, my hand choking the life from them as blood swells in their eyes. Oh, that was one of them. And then there was another part in there which he just does such a good job as well. And it's got a tab in my other copy of the book. I just love it. It's so visceral. You really feel it all. This show is just the prequel for the Lightbringer shows. There you go. We're talking about Lightbringer next week, Maude. Yeah, I know. I've missed it. I can't believe I'm saying that. I've really missed it. I'm struggling with the character saturation in Dark Age. He just throws so many at you. And it's unfamiliar people in Dark Age as well. Severo's absence left a hole. And then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, cool. Screwface is like taking more of a role here. Yeah, you feel a sense of isolation because of that as well. Cassius isn't there. Severo's not there. Virginia's not there. You're just kind of like, oh my God, who's there to kind of continue supporting him? And then you realize that he doesn't have any. Anyway, Darren says, out with the old characters, in with all the new. KPW says, you guys can tell that Maude is a dog person and not a cat person. Is that obvious? It is a little obvious. Okay, so we're no longer talking about the starter villain. Here's a little bit about it from Goodreads, a blurb. Now we're going full spoilers. We're talking about everything. Gaia says, okay, but like typing cats. Yeah, so good. I actually did love that. Inheriting your uncle's supervillain business is more complicated than you might think, particularly when you discover who's running the place. Charlie's life is going nowhere fast. A divorced substitute teacher living with his cat in a house that his siblings want to sell. All he wants to do is open a pub downtown. If only the bank would approve his loan. And then his long-lost uncle Jake dies and leaves his supervillain business complete with an island volcano lair to Charlie. But becoming a supervillain isn't all giant laser death rays and lava pits. Jake had enemies and now they're coming after Charlie. His uncle might have been a stand-up old-fashioned kind of villain, but these are the real thing. Rich, soulless predators backed by multinational corporations and venture capital. It's up to Charlie to win the war his uncle started against a league of supervillains. But with ununionized dolphins, hyper-intelligent talking spy cats, and a terrifying a hunch person at his side, going bad is starting to look pretty good. In a dog-eat-dog world, be a cat. KP Dubs, cue the cats. Cats! Oh, it didn't make noise. Oh, academic's out. See, academic. So let's start with a big thank you to Vaden and to Steph for filling out and helping out with all the show notes about the book. Fantastic. Something that I loved Steph doing. Steph, you did the etymology of the word villain, which I find really fascinating. So I'm going to read that out. How's the origin word? How did the word villain come about? Well, in the 1300s, as an insult, villain, V-I-L-E-I-N, meant base or low-born rustic, from an Anglo-French and old-fashioned villain, which is a peasant farmer, commoner, churl, yokel. From medieval Latin, villainous, which is farmhand. From Latin villa, it's country house or farm, see villa. Properly a bondsman, the lowest class of unfree persons under the feudal system, that since is attested by English in the late 14th century, hence generally and in contempt, one lowborn, a commoner lacking a gentleman's manners. Now, by the mid-16th century, this had sharpened to scoundrel, man capable of gross wickedness, which is also sometimes used humorously or affectionately. The meaning, character in a novel, play, etc., whose evil motives or actions help drive the plot, is from 1822. So the fact that villain started as peasant and evolved into someone, you know, whose evil motives help drive a plot, I think that's a lot of fun. Tay, thank you for resubscribing using your Prime for 10 months. Says, hello. Hope everyone is well. I didn't read this one, but I'm lurking and working. This is a fun book. I just read out the synopsis and where villain, the origin of that word, has come from. I'd like to take it over to Members Plus to weigh in on what you rated this book out of 5 and give me a mini review. Who would like to go first? Jimmy, what'd you give this one out of 5?
I'm going to give this book a 5 out of 5.
Oh, we got a 5 out the gate here
Because
from
one,
Jimmy.
I love cats, if you couldn't tell by my name.
The dragon
and
cat.
cats, that's what I'm all about.
Love it.
But yes, one, it's funny
Yep.
I think you could use the term satirical. It's well written. It pokes fun on certain like life situations, I guess you could say.
Yep.
Because Charlie's down and out, and then he just gets like this sweet layer with all these cats that are genetically modified to do his bidding. What's not to like about it, right? I'm just saying.
5 out of 5. That's a perfect score. Pianki has given this one a 4.25 out of 5. Lisa, you gave it a 4.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It took me a while to get into it. Like I took me like a week to read the first couple chapters, and then I
wow.
just finally broke down and got the audiobook and listened on audio. But I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. There were some twists in there I wasn't expecting towards the end, so
Mhm.
it was good. It was very entertaining.
Love it.
Love the cast. I love the dolphins.
Yeah. Yes. KP Dubs, 4.5 out of 5?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a perfectly written book, but it was whimsical. It was fun. I love the cats. I love the labor strife with the dolphins. I
Yep.
thought how they're just swearing at them left and right. I thought that whole part was great. And I didn't see a lot coming, so I thought the twists were well written. There's just one or two things where you're like, okay, yeah, I thought that was coming, but no, it was just a lot of fun.
Agree. Game Wizard, you said 4.5. Typing Cats out of 5.
Yep, mostly because just the way the ending, like prior to like the sort of like epilogue thing where everything's like, where they are at now. It's like basically how they defeat like what's his name in the little vault room Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of thing that they had. It's like, oh yeah, it's a betrayal thing. It's like, who can see that coming?
Yeah. Yeah. A betrayal
Other
upon
than that
betrayal
little-
upon betrayal. Yeah.
Other than that little predictable moment, everything else loved it. Especially like typing cats and spy cats and stuff like that.
Yep.
Love
Love
that
it.
concept.
Avery, 4 out of 5.
Yeah. Pretty much what everybody else said. It's just a super fun book. Like it's just, yeah, like it was a good time. It's not super like deep or anything like that. It was just fun. So that's why I gave it a 4.
Honestly, we need fun sometimes, don't we?
I agree.
Especially coming into a brand new year. Yeah. No Akatar, but fun, super smart cats. Vaden, 4.25 out of 5. Same with Phantom Aria.
Yeah, I love the book. Cats, like everyone else is mentioning, and just the general humor was pretty awesome. I wasn't a big fan of the villains. Like I felt like they were a little too like
right
easy to make fun of. Like because like I felt like they weren't a threat at all. Like because his uncle basically defeated them really easily. I was like, oh yeah, you guys are not important to me, and I'm gonna just make my life screwing you over. And then they were trying to get against him, and it just felt like. I never felt like that was ever in danger.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
Like, when they blew up the thing and they're like, whatever. Yeah, you blew up some bands and a couple people that we have no idea may have died. We don't know. Like it just didn't feel.
The stakes weren't high. Oh, yeah, okay, I like that. That's good feedback. Alcohol still gave it a 4.5. Jay Butterfrock, the second lowest score that I'm seeing in the chat here. You gave it a 3 out of 5. I'd love to hear why.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's funny. It's just just personally I didn't like where it went because there was no actual villainy. It's kind of just like corporate infighting, and then the best characters in the book are the gimmicky characters that are cats and dolphins. So I just wanted more of the maybe you'd have a more dilemma about his uncle actually being a villain, but it just turned out not to be true.
That's a really great point that I didn't quite think about. Yeah, it's like where was the betrayal? Where was the unpacking of that? He kind of adapted it quite quickly. I listened to the book and there was a lot of Will Wheaton yelling. I will say that. Did anyone else listen to the book?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of, some of it, the acting was like really, really well done, but like because he's putting so much emphasis, because it was like really intense. Yeah, I was like, oh, well, these guys are just yelling at each other. What's new? Ali says, Ari, the title. I think it was really interesting that it was called Starter. Every time I was doing a video, it would say Starter villain, not beginner. because he wasn't planning on continuing. So he's not a beginner, but starter makes me think like it's a startup company, and he's also a fire starter to demolish the cabal. I like that. That's fun. Christina gave it a 2.5 out of 5. Says, I guess I'm not the only one to like it. I'd love to hear more about that, Christina. Why the 2.5? Star Pilot 6 gave it a solid 4 out of 5 for me. Typical fun book from Scalzi. Jeff, you gave this one a 4. Oh, Jeff, I don't know if your camera's frozen again. It just looks like you're reading and I'm interrupting you this time. A lot better than thinking that you're bored out of your mind. But if you do get this, comment your opinions. Colleen, 5 out of 5. Loved it.
Yeah, I've actually been recommending it to people because it was just fun. There were a few things that I thought were kind of relevant. I mean, that cabal, those are the kind of villains we're up against right now.
Corporate greed.
Yeah. I mean, Avery made a comment or a response to my comment about the inauguration being the Lombardi convocation. And I think that's pretty spot on. But mostly,
hard agree. When no one actually really knows what they're doing either, yeah, hard agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just all...
Yes, Colleen?
Yeah, I just thought for the most part it was pretty fun. So I've recommended it to a lot of people because I just thought some of us needed a light read for a while, especially my friends who haven't been reading.
Oh, I like that.
Time to read. I thought it would be a good, quick way to get into the year.
That is actually a really good... Maddie, let's do a list and a brainstorm. The best books to get you back into reading. I like that. And not be daunted by, here are the first 17 books. You're just like, what?
Page 394.
Page sound? Page sound?
Turn to page.
No. Where's Gaby Dubs? There it is. That's you got to make it just perfect together. Good. I don't mean to,
Didn't know what you meant by page sound because I never used that button yet before.
I would have had it. I hit the wrong button.
Didn't mean to turn into an absolute psycho right then, but there you go. Robin, you gave it a 4.5. So did Brush Kid.
Yeah, just the same as everybody else. You give me a talking cat any day, and I got automatically 4 just for that.
Sometimes it do be that easy. Put the cat in the suit and put it on the front of the book, even better. I love it. Even though the Hera, it's misleading. I mean, I guess Hera is pulling off the suit quite nicely. Steph, you gave it a 4 out of 5. Oh, muted.
I know. Sorry about that. Yeah, I liked it for all the reasons everyone said, but also it was so original. You see the corporate greed being the villain, which we all know that's what's happening nowadays. But also, it's just funny the way they're not very intelligent.
No.
Right? And you didn't know where everything was going to go. So original as a book.
Yeah.
I thought it was really fun.
I do too. I'm surprised something like this hasn't been done before. So it was, or maybe it has and I haven't read it yet, but I really liked it. Gaia, you gave it a 5 out of 5, saying smooth read, never stopped moving. I liked Charlie more than I expected to. The ridiculousness kept me hooked. Ali gave it a 4.5, saying great, happy escapism, but not something that will linger with me forever. Yeah, it's just kind of like, oh, that was nice. It's like taking a health potion, Yeah, it was good. And then you can get on with your day. KP Dub says this book does not take itself seriously, and that was a good thing. Sprinkle says one of my favorite quotes is, when a kitten walks up to you and makes demands, what are you going to do? Say no? I'm not a monster. All caps. Game Wizard says they weren't real villains because they were business guys with overinflated egos. That's true. KP Dub says the villains were not great. They were too stupid. They didn't bother me all too much. Aaron says the uncle was the only real villain, but he was a villain to the villains. KP says greed was the villain, and it's kind of sort of relevant, actually. Bianchi said that they listened, as did Christina. Aaron says the uncle was like a casual Bond villain working against dumb adult rich trust fund idiots. Yeah. Yeah. Which is why, is he a bad guy or is he just
so over
opportunistic?
the top to keep them in check too, because he had a literal laser that was meant to help weather, but also take out satellites at a whim.
Yeah.
So like, he was full Bond villain, and these were just guys who had too much money and time on their hands and not any direction of how to use it properly.
And the fact that the business model was, I'm going to make this, I will never use it. The fact that I have it is enough, and they're all going to pay me so much money to say that they can use it, which they won't. And you're just like, nothing matters. Like, this is all optics.
And still have enough money from legitimate businesses, so it's like he keep funding this stuff to then get black site, government money that he can never use.
That's it. And we're going to get into that, where it's like when you pull back the layers, like what does $1 trillion actually mean? Zipple, which I actually found that to be quite interesting. Brush Kid says, yeah, I listened, and lots of yelling. Avery says, to be fair, they're realistic villains. I would consider most of the billionaire tech bros modern day villains. Yeah, if you're not pouring that back into uplifting multiple communities, what are you doing? I've got so much more on that. Heads up. If you don't like people bitching about billionaires, you're going to want to tune out for like half an hour of this stream, because I'm going to roll my sleeves up and go. Christina says the humor didn't work for me, but I liked the cats. I wonder if that was to do with the audiobook read on it, because it did kind of go into hysteria a little bit. And I wonder if it added to the humor or took away from the humor. Sprinkle says, Charlie just wanted a tavern and he got roped into something bigger. Yeah, it's like, oh, you want to be a businessman? Okay, step up. Step up. Great question, Jeff. Says the book poses the question, what is a villain? I would love to completely go off topic and talk about what does everyone think a villain is. Avery's got it in one with like billionaire tech bros flirting with villainy every single day. Who's got an answer for that one?
They also turned that whole Lombardi convocation thing and like they're like having all of them compete. It's basically Shark Tank. That whole setup of them like spouting out their ideas and then just waiting for them to get invested in.
That would actually make better television if they all consecutively did not like the idea and it was deemed the dumbest idea. They got catapulted. They got yeeted out of the studio. That would be great.
Yeeted to the sharks, possibly. We don't even know what's in that water.
Actually have them yeeted into Shark Tanks or fall into a Shark Tank, either or.
Well, I mean, they did say in the book that like they shouldn't be in danger. They say like basically when they get thrown into the water, no one's died. Supposedly.
Yeah, but they didn't know that was going to happen when they stepped up to the plate. Like they didn't know the stakes, which I think that's quite villainous to be duplicitous like that in a way. Ultimata said very good point about Starter Villain being a book to get back into reading, because this book helped me get back into reading. I think this is a really good idea that the books that will kind of like kickstart your love for reading again. And I think that's it. I mean, yay, I missed my hair. When a book usually gets on average at least a 4.25, that's a book I want to recommend, because that's like, it's not every book is for everyone. I'm sure that someone hates Project Hail Mary. Jeff, did you read that one? Did you like it? Are you muted?
Loved it.
Okay. All right. So far on the Crown, #1 spot, safest book to recommend, the book to get someone back into reading, personally, Project Hail Mary. I think that is the Hail Mary of reading. That is a good one. This, I also think, should be on the list, but not in the #1 spot. And that's the other thing. I would also recommend Dungeon Crawler Carl, but that's not for everyone as well, except I flippin' love it. A lot of us love it. Alt Matter
for reading.
The what?
Starter book for reading.
Oh, there we go. Maddie, write that one down. Starter book for reading. Starter Villain. You also said...
New achievement.
Love it. You also said missed opportunity to not have the Hera quote Yzma from Emperor's New Groove about using poison.
Turn into a cat at the end.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Give me 1 sec. I can just put a GIF and show chat for you. Please
Thank
continue.
you. Alt Matter also says that Ben Elton's Stark has a similar vibe. Ooh, we got to put it on a reading list. Maddie, put that on a list for me. Books I need to read. Maddie's literally typing like this, I swear. She's just like, I'll put that on the list. Trying to make dinner. Colleen says they were also starter villains, but their fathers were the real brains. That's it. Oh, thank you for the all-white setup. Oh, it does. It's got the hair. I didn't even notice. Avery says Jake was literally just hoarding resources. That was his whole thing. I also have a problem with that. Oh, my God. I'm about to get into it. I can feel my knuckles getting white on my mouse over here. Terry says there's one becoming president in the US in a couple of days. Yep. Yep. Ali says based on the etymology, it's interesting that villain used to mean lowest in society. And in this case, they're actually the wealthiest. I'm still going through the chat. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind on it all. Christina says, Wheaton laughing while reading the funny parts kind of took me out of the story a little bit. But I love Hail Mary. There you go. This Hail Mary really is the Hail Mary. Ali says also the villains not being too smart is pretty accurate to our real world. Just look at the shape of the rockets. Surely aerodynamically that has to
And art imitates life because they did that in Austin Powers too.
Yeah, I know. That was such a funny moment where it was just like every time
did
they would.
nobody tell him, or did they realize it and decided not to because it's like, what's the point? He's clearly a villain anyway.
Villain's gonna villain. What's going on the list, says Maddie. I'm so confused. Yeah, I'm going to keep barking things out, though. We'll piece it together. Terry's doing other books on the Get Back Into Reading list. Said for Romantasy Light versions, you can use Divine Rivals. For Sci-Fi Project Hail Mary. And for gamers, Dungeon Crawler Carl. Now, Divine Rivals, I loved that book. Second didn't stick the landing as much as I'd hoped. I still liked it, though. I still liked it. I did a video on that recently. RIP TikTok. KPW says, on this episode of Hoarders, how many mansions can one man own? Avery says, I did a core workout and now laughing hurts. That'll teach you. No. We're getting abs in the book club. Oh my gosh, maybe that can be like one of our testimonials. It's like, we'll give you abs. Moore's Book Club. Vaden says Tress in the Emerald Sea would be great for a starter fantasy. It's standalone, super fun, and relatively short, which for Brandon Sanderson is an achievement. Gold star. He's capable of doing it. Gaia says, I was obsessed with the fact that Scalzi kept ending or starting chapters with stuff like, and that's when the room blew up. And that's when I saw the knife. So dramatic. It's so dramatic. I do love that kind of writing because you're just like, immediately flipping that page. I think that's a testament to good writing. Let's go through the plot. We're going to break it down a little bit here. I actually really liked the start of this book, and I think when it's a condensed book, when it's shorter, you are more privy, and I think it stands out a little bit more, your setup. You notice that I notice, maybe not everyone, and I'll open the conversation up. You see the beats. Who is Charlie? What's his situation? Why is he prime to be able to walk away from his life? I actually thought John Scalzi did a very, very good job of setting up Charlie's life. So he's an ex-business reporter, spouse, and caregiver to his now deceased father, and is in reduced circumstances, living with his cats, Hera and Persephone. Found cats. The cat distribution law came into place in the old family home, co-owned with his half-siblings who are keen to sell it. He barely makes a living as a substitute teacher. In the opening chapters, he's a bit disgruntled. He's had really bad luck. His wife has left him. He used to be a flourishing journalist, and now he's barely kind of getting jobs as a substitute teacher. He's feeling really rock bottom. Now, there was a quote that I got from this book, which I wrote in the fable, but it was like getting gut punched. And I'm not sure what everyone else's year was like last year. But I believe it was the estate manager said, "You've been spending a lot of time in neutral recently." I didn't like that. I didn't think it was fair to read it. But when I read it, I was like, what an interesting way to describe lulls in life. You've been in neutral for a while. Really
Also
well
helped
set up.
It's out.
The what?
How dare that book call us out?
I know. I will say, though, sometimes it's really nice to have a fire lit under your ass. I was just having a great conversation with a good friend of mine, talking about when you have, like, you just don't feel like life's going super great, and sometimes your negativity will increase and your self-talk will get a little bit worse, and you don't really notice it. You don't really know that it's sort of like sliding in a downward direction. But that negativity creates more negativity. Negativity is contagious and it can breed. And if you don't check it, your dial of positive to negative can just ramp up into the negative until you are creating negativity in your existence. And I've talked openly about how I had a little downward spiral, which was subtle. But after about 5 years of a subtle decline, you feel it, you notice it. You're like, whoa, that started there and now it's here. It's, whoa, it's gradual, but this happened. And it was my best friend a couple of my best friends were like, your self-talk is the most negative it's been. And I'm worried. And it's so great to have friends that love you kind of call you on it, because a lot of the time you don't even realize. And my best friend said, it's not that you've dug yourself a hole and that you're in the hole. I will come down into that hole and sit with you in your hole. The problem is you've started making the hole comfortable. So you are low and you've now kind of set up some cushions to stay there and get comfortable in your depression. And that for me was like, got to get there. So having Charlie kind of in this situation where he's a little bit down and out and he's not feeling like he's on the right path. There's, a sense of failure if your marriage doesn't work. He doesn't really have friends. He doesn't really have anyone close to him. And the only thing that he does have is his house that other people own and kind of want to take from him. He is prime to have the Harry Potter letter experience. He is prime for, you know what? We're gonna take you to another place and do a whole other thing because you're not leaving anything behind. And then to add on top of it, his house blows up. So he really has nothing to go back to.
You're a villain, Charlie.
I'm a what? With rockets and lasers and volcanoes. Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, Hermione did have a cat. The cats were always there. I like that. You're a villain, Charlie. Oh, that's a lot of fun. Vane says, I was in neutral for years, which became a problem for me. I decided to fix it with a year of saying yes to new opportunities instead of defaulting to no. I actually have called 2025 the year of yes, and I'm exhausted. I have a social life. People go like, do you want to do this? And I'd be like, yes. And I would go, and it's always usually fine, but goodness me, so beat. Whatever happened to like getting a book at 9:30 and calling it a night? Oh, I miss it.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, especially if you're used to saying no, because then you get comfortable staying home all the time. But then you have to actually get used to going out and be like, okay, I have to get ready, I have to do all this other stuff. You have to like be available. You're just like, but then once you actually do it, once people invite you, you actually go. You have a good time, right?
You do.
It's almost always worth it. It's just a matter of being willing to put yourself out there.
That's it. A comfort zone is a great place, but nothing ever grows there, says Catch. Yeah, nicely said. Avery says, here we go. Clever says, sometimes we deserve to spend a little time in neutral. You got to save that gas. If your foot's on the pedal the entire time, you literally burn out. These are all car puns. Very clever ones, if I do say so myself. And Avery says, look, I agree. I started stressing myself out over constantly moving on to the next thing. So I just decided to calm down and just let myself be for a few years. Clever Girl says, inertia is hard to overcome. That's the thing. I feel like if it's your choice, if you're like, I'm going to take a year, and I actually did that 2023. I'm like, I'm going to take a year. What I didn't realize was how fast my career moved without me constantly being in it. So when you do take a year off and you try to come back, it's a very different place and you're knocking on doors that won't open anymore. And that was a harsh reality I faced. Also, fun fact, as a woman in LA, you can't get older. Don't do that. It's career suicide. What did everyone else think about the opening of this? Did you relate to Charlie? Did you get a strong grasp on Charlie? Did you have him kind of like fully fleshed out? Did we like how it opened? Everyone's nodding. One person nodded.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, I thought the opening was really good. Like, it gives you a really good impetus to start the whole, story, and like it shows Charlie's character a lot. Like, even though he doesn't know, like I said, he's his uncle. He basically met him once when he was a kid, and like he still was willing to try to protect him. Even his corpse from some random people's trying to stab him. A whole room of people trying to stab his uncle. So
it does.
It just really shows what kind of person he is right from the beginning and what he's willing to do.
Pulses and everything.
Yeah, that's a really big human trait. Like, especially in intense moments when adrenaline kicks in. I truly don't think you know who you'll become or how you'll behave until you're in that situation. I think I brought up this story a few times now, that there was a house party. Someone got drunk, thought it'd be a really good idea to punch a window and, of course, cut all the way up their arm. And everyone would be like, whoa, that looks really bad. And I'd be like, right, you get the towel, you go there, you call the ambulance, you make sure that you hold your arm up because the blood's coming up. And I was just like, went straight into sort of like barking orders because everyone's like, well, that looks really bad. We don't know what to do. I'm like, well, someone has to do something. And I just did it. And then realized after the fact that I get really woozy when I see lots of blood. And so I like nearly passed out and had to hide under the table for a little bit. But we handled it. And the other time that happened was when two of my friends were arm wrestling and one guy broke the other guy's arm. Clean snap. I heard it. And 15 people were just standing there dumbfounded. And then I was like, we should probably figure out a hospital for him to go to now. Inconceivable. And just like, some people just like need to be told in those moments. And it turns out I decide that I need to do some telling. Maddie says, since the movie Fly, worst fear. You think I would see a movie like The Fly? I will. Which those kind of movies? No, thank you. KP Dub says, yep, that's me, Maude. When everything gets nuts, I get calm and the world slows down for me. Isn't that wild how it happens? You just have clarity. You're like, A, B, C, D, E, let's go. You. And I think afterwards I was like, what good is just standing there going to do? Like, but that's what shock is. You're literally in shock in those moments. Game was it the fight or flight or freeze?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Game Wizard, you said a later moment when he kept trying to explain how to do a Zoom meeting with the big villain and then close the session on him to force him to start again. I liked that moment too. Ali says, I think the lawyer admired Charlie for caring for his sick dad. That's the thing. You fundamentally know that Charlie is a good guy. Or fright. Yes. Freeze. Yes. Yeah, you get a sense of his character. Now, and it moves really, really quickly as well, I think. It's like quick setup. You know who he is. Right. Now, he gets a call. You find out here we go. There's the notes, Maude. They're right there. He aspires to acquire a revered local tavern whose owner is retiring but was denied a bank loan. When his long-estranged uncle, Jake Baldwin, billionaire owner of a parking lot empire, dies, Jake's assistant, Matilda Morrison, approaches Charlie with a proposition. Represent Jake at the memorial service and he will receive enough money from the estate to buy out his siblings, get a loan, and realize his dream. The funeral was hilarious. This is when it kind of started off normal and then it ramped it up into bonkers phase. The funeral is attended by various dubious individuals who have a bizarre obsession with confirming that Jake is dead. One attendee, stabby guy, Tobias, even attempts to stab the corpse. Is this where the tone of the book kicks in for you guys? Is this when you're just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, who are these people? Gaia says the funeral was unbelievable. So funny. Clever Girl says the floral arrangements. The vase. Like, you're trying to piece it together because we know very little about Jake Baldwin. He had a lot of money running successful parking structure companies, which sounds like it's one of the more tame and boring jobs out there. He just happened to be a little bit lucrative at it. And then you realize a butt ton of random, strange, scary looking men hate him. And you're like, why? Also, there were just laugh out loud moments with the funeral director who's like, could I please take a photo? Could I keep the vase? I'm on a Facebook page, and they would all find this very, very funny. Like, I've seen some strange things, but this is really something. I loved it. KP Dub said the whole book could have been with the funeral director. Oh, very funny. J Bunt Rock says they mentioned so much that Jake faked his death before. So I knew it would be foreshadowing. J Bunt Rock, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. What were your thoughts? What kind of faking of death do you think would have resurfaced? And did you call it?
Sort of. Well, I knew it was going to come into play, so I was waiting for that one big death to show up. And then when it does finally happen, I was like, oh, that guy's coming back. But I called it the other way. I figured that guy was going to be the main villain, but it turned out he was there to help, I guess.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
Yep. Snores, you have a comment that I would love you to explore. It's a literal save the cat start. What is a save the cat start?
It's a screenwriting technique where if you have a character that may or may not be likable, you have them do something good. And one of the universal examples is save the cat, save a cat. And so there's actually books about how to write a screenplay technique called Save the Cat, Save a Cat.
And in this one?
Fun. And he literally, like, he finds Persephone and saves her, quote unquote.
Therefore, good guy. But I feel like, yes, he's adopted 2 sort of stray cats and he takes care of them and he treats them well. Yeah, if you treat animals well, we trust that almost better than treating people well a lot of the time. I'd like to shout out the Pasadena Humane Society, who's been doing great work in LA for rehabilitating a lot of animals. And I'm like trying to help encourage fundraising for that as well. They had to turn down volunteers and supplies because so many people stepped up to help saving animals. Love it. Occult still says the fact that the other older villain didn't have a cat, I figured that he was likely okay versus all the others, a special cat, so to speak. But you crashed again. Oh. The fact that, yeah, he was taking care of his sick father. I think that even though, like, depends on the situation. Some people don't have good relationships with their father. I grew up a caretaker for my grandmother, so I didn't know it was a choice. I don't really think it was. I didn't really think anything about it. It was just such a standard way of life. And I was like, oh, everyone, like if their grandmother had a stroke, they would come to live with the family and everyone would chip in to help out. I don't understand what's so weird about it. And everyone's like, my grandma's never lived with me. I'm like, oh, really? Oh. And it's like, I've never had to look after my grandma. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I do. And it's just, I make her breakfast before I go to school and I make sure that, she's got clothes cleared out for the day and I make sure, that she's fed. Everyone's like, yeah, that's like really weird. I'm like, oh, is it? When you're a caretaker, you don't ask questions, you do it. someone needs the help, you help. Except in my family, my brother in the middle, he was the favorite child, and the only way I made peace with that is if that my mum gets sick, he would look after her. And I slept really well after I made that decision. But in thinking about it, I would still be there for my parents if anything happens. The moment, Mum and Dad, if you're watching, don't die. Don't do it. I'm not ready for it. I'm talking loudly because I'm thinking about it. But yeah, you know, you help. You just step up and help. But the fact that that is another on top of the save the cat mantra, that this is a good guy. Is Charlie likable? Jimmy says yes. Colleen says yes. Lisa says yes. Avery says yes. We got a couple of so-sos in here. Or if we're playing what is it? Protocol Lockdown?
So.
Yeah.
For me, it was just depending on the situation he was in. Like when he's able to take control, he's actually very likable. Like when he's on his own, like speaking to like some of the villains on his own, like he did the Zoom meeting, things like that, where he's able to at least have some agency. He's great. When he's passive, he's like just, press setting kind of thing. Like he's just there.
Yeah.
It's not really neat. As you later literally find out at the end of the whole book, it's like his whole
He
purpose
was a pawn. He was a pawn on a chef. Yeah. He was just used completely, and it was not because of him. He was just the only one available. And way to make him feel special. Ali says Charlie is so relatable to me. I would love to hear more about that. Gaia says when he was questioning the villain stuff or even messing with the villains, I liked him more and more. Ali says the way that Charlie is relatable is because he's brilliant but also empathetic. Brilliant and empathetic are not good combos to be a villain. Brilliant is, which a lot of the villains do not possess. Empathetic, no. Villainy has no room for empathy. Leonard, thank you for following 10 minutes ago. I'm a bit late with that. Occult says, well, I would say he's a sympathetic character and he had his moment. Union strong. I liked Charlie's vulnerability. I think it is an incredibly acceptable, wonderful, insightful thing to do, to say, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not sure. I don't know what the answers are. I don't know everything. I am learning. I need help. This is hard. I'm a little overwhelmed. I want to do my best. I'm in a position where I can make great change. What am I going to do with that position? Who can I trust? No one? Great. My cat? I love. Oh, the most vulnerable moment as well when he said, the hardest part is that my cat's going to leave. It's not that I'm not a billionaire and that everyone betrayed me and all these sorts of things. He's like, my cat's going to leave. And that's the saddest part about all of this. You're like, oh.
Yeah. Also, throughout the book, he was repeatedly mentioning that he wasn't sure if the cats liked him for who he was or because they felt like it was a responsibility to them.
Or if he was a client or a target or exactly.
Yeah, they're doing only because they have to. But then afterwards, they're like, "Oh no, I want to stay with you. I want to be." And they come to opposite. At the end, Hera says, "Okay, you're my responsibility now," and I'll.
They vouched for him.
Yeah,
it was sweet. So, wait, where's your camera? Wait, we've moved it around a little bit.
While you're doing that, real quick though, if Zelda was smart and she could type, what do you think she would say to
She
you?
would sound like the dolphins. No hesitation on that one. I think she would have very colorful language. And she would be writing in all caps without fail.
She's Donut and the dolphins at the same time.
Yeah. Every time you made me high five you for food, I counted. It was 387. There's Zelda. Altmar. Altmar says this is Charlie. Charlie was very socialist, and that was appealing to me. I'm really interested to hear what more people with a more capitalist bent experience of the book experienced of the book. That is kind of the difference. How am I going to say this? Fundamentally, capitalism is, if you have success, you benefit. I want to help myself is essentially a capitalist mantra. I build, I work hard, I reap my benefits. I put in that hard work. I deserve to have what I reap from sowing. Socialist is, if I have, we all deserve. So socialist is actually about caring for your community, and capitalist is more caring for your family. So making sure everyone in your, which is why they have very traditional values. Man provides, make money. Woman looks after and tends the house and the children. Because a capitalist approach is, I work really hard so I can provide and look after my family. Not always in traditionalist roles, but it is more of a traditionalist approach. I grew up in a socialist country, and that is, it does not matter what class system you belong to. It does not matter how much money you have. You are entitled as a member of the community by simply existing and being born. You are entitled to basic healthcare needs. Now, if you have money, you are still able to get privatized healthcare at a standard that you can afford, because money opens doors, and you get what you are paying for. When I fell through a glass table at 4 a.m. and cut open my leg to the point where my calf muscle was hanging out, I was driven to a public hospital. And I was not a priority because women giving birth were, which I now understand that was a lot more painful than what I went through. I got 20 stitches. I was released at 8 a.m. and I was charged nothing, absolutely nothing. I believe that communities should look out for each other. There are people who are born into families, into a class system that often will keep them in that class system. There are the exceptions and not the rules of people breaking out of said class system, or invertly being born into a higher class system and falling from grace, so to speak, and being in a different class system. I just believe that as a fundamental human right, it would be nice if the government were to look out for the health needs of everyone in their community. Mandatory high cost insurance ensures that the rich stay rich and healthy and the poor die. Monetizing life-saving medication is fucked up. And I think one of the worst things that humans have ever done to the world. That's all I'll say about that. Are villains fundamentally capitalists? I would say yes. Jimmy, you say no. What do you think a capitalist's approach is when it comes to wanting to be a villain? Because they talk about it in the book.
Well, I would think, this is just my point of view, but I would think, if, a villain, I think, is someone that's described as someone that is doing something, sometimes with no rhyme or reason. Like, for example, a lot of people would consider, I know he's not in this book, but a lot of people consider Joker to be a villain.
Mm-hmm.
But other people would not consider Joker to be a villain.
I've actually had this debate recently, and it was to do with Luigi's case, where someone said, how is Luigi different to the Joker, not in terms of like the full-on Gotham Joker that we see in his origin story, but Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. And their argument was that both are wrong. And I was like, look, fundamentally, yes, both are wrong. I see Luigi as more of a Robin Hood, where there is a corrupt system in place where the rich get richer and the poor die. And it takes someone to sort of disrupt a corrupted process. Now, I think that when I use the Sheriff of Nottingham and Robin Hood when talking about D&D class distribution, Robin Hood is chaotic good. And chaotic good means you disrupt and your means are not great. Your means can break the law. Your means can get blood on your hands. But the intent behind it is to create good. It is to help people who have been hurt by the system. It is to raise awareness, or it is to cause chaos into and try to provide fracture to a system that doesn't seem likely to change, that is set on hurting a lot of people. I argued that the Joker's origin story was kind of validated for like the disgruntled white incel, where it's like, I deserve A, B, C, D, E, and I'm being void of it, or I'm being bullied or belittled, which bullying and belittling a person is not good. But this was a hurt individual hurting the masses as a, how dare you treat me like this? And so that's, I think, the difference. Now, Jimmy, when you're talking about what a villain is, you said there's no rhyme or reason. I disagree with that big time. I think villains have immense amount of reason, and they talk about it in this book. They want to be villains to cause chaos. They're disruptors. They want to disrupt what's in place. And this isn't like disrupting the healthcare system, which is hurting individuals and hurting people and making sure that money is the priority. This is, they want to cause and create chaos because war is very profitable. So they are making money from causing pain. And when two factioning or, warring countries, they need to get, they need to arm themselves. That is very profitable business. So the more that countries hate each other, and they're the ones stoking the fires so that they can financially gain from it. That is evil. That is, without question, very, very evil to do. And the core of evil, at its very core, I believe, is greed. Now, why the fuck someone needs this much money in one lifetime if they're not trying to use it for good, beyond me. I don't get it. I think greed is disgusting. I think that people have very different understandings and relationships with money that are very differing. But I do not want to muddle intention of villainy in this book specifically, which is profiteering off chaos, and that chaos hurting numerous people at a high volume often. All right, now that I've just gone on a few fucking rants there, I feel a little lighter. Let's go through some of these comments. Alt Marta said, I loved the striking dolphins and was rooting for them. I would read the part, would that part read the same to someone who didn't like unions? That's interesting because it's doing it in a humorous way. And even though the dolphins were like not likable and hated people, and if you push someone away like that, you wouldn't want to help them. That's a really interesting question, and I like that. KBW says people forget what socialism is. Police and fire departments are socialists. Public roads and schools are socialists. I think I've said this a million times, and I talked about it with TJ Clune, and that is in the medical fields and in schools, they are the most warped systems in place because teachers need to be getting paid so much more because they are raising the generation of children on their own, and they are understaffed and they are underfunded, and it makes no sense. Why teachers aren't paid the most? Because the role that they have, when you are a child, you can have one comment that will change the course of your sense of self, I suppose. I was reading Brene Brown, who said that an overwhelming percentage of people lost their creativity or felt like they didn't want to be creative. And creativity is a notion of fun, which is mandatory to have happiness. And that was squashed from like a flippant conversation from an art teacher or something that happened in school where someone said, maybe at least you're good at maths because that horse looks terrible. That shit sticks for the rest of your life. I'm pretty sure I could confidently ask every single one of you, what was the comment in school that scarred you? And we would have several to run through. Anyway, teachers need to get paid more. Doctors shouldn't be doing 18 plus hour days, 6 days a week. Nurses should be getting paid more. Someone who is responsible literally for your life should not be sleep deprived. If you want to be a doctor, you shouldn't have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars on your education to save lives. I have rants. Welcome to January, everyone. Ali says, to me, the argument was that there is no true capitalism. It was still an oligarchy with inherited wealth. There you go. Yeah, I agree with that as well. It's maybe somewhat of a capitalist mindset, but you're right. We are going into oligarchy territory, which is seizing absolute power. And they had wealth to do that. So wealth creates power. Game Wizard says good capitalism, or the idealized version, is that you focus just on working hard to making the best product or provide the best service and to try and stay better than your competition, and they do the same, and not actively trying to ruin your competitors beyond just getting and being better. Colleen says, I see capitalism as an extension of militaristic colonization, colonialism. What do you mean by that?
Well, I've been influenced a lot by a book I'm reading called An Indigenous People's History of the United States. And basically it's, wanting it more for yourself at disregarding whatever of, a lot of the people that we think of as big heroes settling the West were just out there killing Indians so they could get land.
Yeah.
And our military still draws on a lot of the precedents set in the Indian Wars. Our country was kind of founded on those ideals.
Yeah, and a lot of pain and a lot of loss. And I feel like a hero is only dependent on whichever side you're on.
Yeah.
Joe Bunt Rock says, sadly, in America, people can't differentiate between socialist, fascist, and communist due to decades of capitalist propaganda. That's a big bag to unpack. And I definitely agree with that. And I think that, you don't agree, Jeff. I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
All right. Well, so my background is actually in economics. That's what I have my degree in.
Let's go.
Let me preface all of this by saying I'm a very left-leaning person in general. And I do like a lot of what you've said is resonates with me very much. I believe anyone who profits from the pain or illness of someone else is a despicable human being. But with that said, the concept of capitalism as it was originally formed, there's this idea of the invisible hand. If anybody recalls that from their economics class in high school, it essentially means that a rising tide lifts all boats. That's another way to say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about the fact that if I work hard and I do really well, then I'll employ people, and the better I do, the more I can pay them, and the more products we can produce and people can buy. and the more money kind of goes around, and so everybody just gets more
Yeah.
just by me doing well. And so that's kind of the core of what actually capitalism should be, more or less. The issue is that we don't live in a capitalist country in any way, shape, or form, and it hasn't been forever, because capitalism assumes a whole lot of stuff, free markets and blah 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 blah. And I'm not going to go into all of that, but the reality is that the system is all rigged. Like it's the government should be stepping in to kind of reduce what are called externalities, negative externalities, meaning bad things that happen when people make money or do things, environmental impacts, that sort of stuff. We should be regulating that to make sure that that stuff doesn't happen and that it doesn't hurt people and so on. But instead, we write laws that benefit big business and benefit people who elect our officials, because there's so much money in politics now. And so it's no longer an efficient system. And so we don't live in a capitalist. We're actually, even in this country, we're more socialist than we are capitalist. Anyone who doesn't understand that, I mean, as a formerly successful business person who retired at 31, I would never, ever, ever claim to be like a self or anything else. I inherited debt from my dad when he died, not money, but I got unbelievably lucky and I worked my ass off and I did 90-hour days. But fundamentally, it was the infrastructure and the people around me and the town around me and the community around me and the police and the roads and all the other stuff, that taxes and every other thing that everybody else pays for, that allowed me be successful. And I know that. And so it's not, it comes into the issue where we've been sold a bill of goods that if I do well, then everybody does well. And that's true in a purely capitalist society, but we don't.
So the original concept of capitalism is, in a way, so that everyone benefits.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel like what we're seeing more and more with corporate sort of structure and greed is that the person sitting at the top almost has all the money funnel up to them, instead of it funneling down to everyone else and make sure that everyone's looked after. And this is happening a lot because places like Amazon, where Bezos is one of the most wealthiest men on the planet, is not really increasing a minimum wage for a lot of the workers and providing terrible working conditions, and has bought his fourth yacht, while a lot of his employees are deeply unhappy and wanting to form a union. And we're seeing that a little bit more and more, where it's like the CEO of a company will get like a $41 million salary increase, whereas everyone sort of under have not had salaries reflect inflation and are making less money than ever before. There's a lot of studies that have come out saying being a millennial is the fucking worst generation financially. And that it's the minimum wage has been the same since 1974 or something like that, 1991, whatever, something. It has been the same for something like 28 years. And then they looked at the net worth of the billionaires over that same time, and the increase is staggering. So it kind of comes back again to the rich are getting richer, and the poor are dying. But I love having a conversation about what true capitalism is supposed to be, and I guess what's going wrong. And why is this relevant? Why are we talking about this? We are reading a book called Start a Villain, where there are kind of global entities and there are people who are looking for control, power, money. And it's unpacking a lot of conversations. Was there anything else in that conversation? Because I saw that you wrote oof, and that we as a country have strayed from what capitalism was supposed to be. Was there anything else pertaining to this book? Like, what was your answer to what do you think a villain is?
Well, so yeah, I wanted to touch on that because it's the. I don't actually think there are villains in this book necessarily.
You just think they're dodgy businessmen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's literally what they really are. It's just bad business people. Like you're talking about these people, as ridiculous as they seem, those people exist, and I've met them.
Yeah.
But like the definition, you talked about it briefly, but the definition, like they're giving him the orientation,
Mm.
and Uncle Jake very firmly says, no, we use the word villain, like, and because but they say it's a job title, not a state of being, not a like.
Mm.
I am not a villain as a person. I am a villain as my job, and that approach to it like makes it, yeah. Then anybody that is exploiting a business or exploiting anything becomes a potential villain in that sense. I don't actually think later in life that Uncle Jake was a villain in any way. I think he was, and we could talk about how the money actually works and why he couldn't actually spend any of it and all of that stuff, because that is also true. All of that was real. But yeah, he's not a villain. Like he was actually protecting the world by like taking that money out of circulation essentially and parking it in a place that will never get
Never be
spent and
touched. Yeah.
be touched. And even the other guys, as was obvious, like they still had all the nice stuff, the planes and the boats and the houses and so on. Obviously, these other Lombardi people, but they can't actually spend it. They're not liquid. Like they don't actually have money. They have assets, I guess.
I actually thought that was a really interesting part of this book because, you know, I don't think anyone aside from you, Jeff, really has that much information of what it's like to be a billionaire, what that money is like. If you hear billionaire, we assume, oh, you can spend billions of dollars. Like you can spend this money. And that's not actually the case. And I loved how it was like such a wind out of the sails moment where it was like, well, what do you mean I can't spend this money? And it's like, oh, no, this money doesn't exist. Simply put, this money doesn't actually exist. And you're like, well, how does that even happen? But you're right, by like pinning two people against each other, almost creating a moot point because they've both paid for the same service from the same provider and they're trying to outcompete each other. And by doing that, they both can't act on it. He's creating a sense of peace in what could be incredibly destructive in the hands of a wrong person. Aaron, you've got your hand up.
So for like the last 6 or so weeks or whatever, I've been trying to like binge through the show Billions that I like the entire series of. Basically, it's the main character is a billionaire, and his whole thing is like, you know, a hedge fund type of guy. One episode is his company buys up the debt of a town that was just basically like almost on the verge of insolvency, where it's like they would just basically go completely under. So his whole idea was like to buy up the debt to then try to bet against it to get a lot of money, but he loses on that bet. And now he's basically owning the debt of this entire town. The only way to get his money back is to literally seize every single type of asset that town has. Like all the buildings, all the everything that is owned by the town, he would then take possession of to sell off piecemeal, including like one-of-a-kind artwork that's in like the city hall like lobby or something like that. It was just... And he's like, has a bunch of like his employees like trying to come up with ideas or something like that. And some of them were like, what the hell are we doing? We're literally discussing ways to tear out the heart and soul of this town to make some money back on a bad bet that we should never have been doing in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, he ends up doing it anyway because his wife basically says like, gut them. It's like, doesn't matter. They had their choices to like, you know, be better and do all this stuff. It's like, and his basically the main character's rich wife is just saying, gut the town. Doesn't matter.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes
it's
consequences.
It's a good show, but it's like, it's rough sometimes when you see like the perspective, like what people are willing to do is like hedge fund managers, like just basically putting stuff in a spreadsheet or it's just saying, okay, spend some money on this stock or something like that and watch real consequences just unfold.
Yeah, money and morality, like, gets a bit muddy. Catch, you make a really great point, and I would like to do that PSA. Reminder, Robin Hood didn't steal anything from the rich to give to the poor. He just returned to the poor what was already theirs. Well said. Thank you. Terry is saying, where did I read it? It baffles me that in the US, the health insurance companies have floors of employees that are dedicated to find ways to not pay health insurance on reclamations. Yeah. Was it in The Invincibles where Mr. Invincible, that's his job? He's literally on the phone to this old woman who's like, what do you mean you won't cover my medical?
The Incredibles.
The Incredibles. Invincibles is a very different, a very different show with a very different themes.
Talking about, like,
Incredibles.
Thing.
Yeah, The Incredibles. Game Wizard, you also said here that monsters have no rhyme or reason. Villains choose their actions to suit their own ends at the cost of others, whether it's their money, their possessions, or their lives. Well said. They actively choose their actions to suit their own ends, regardless of the cost of others. That was a really good.
Back to the show Billions with, you know, I'm going to choose to bet against this town, and they lost. Well, now I get your stuff.
Yeah. Now the whole city has to pay for it. Yeah. Then Snore. I'm not going to go on a large diatribe about people not understanding what capitalism is and its real function, but suffice to say that we don't live in a capitalist country in the US. Got it. So it started off with capitalist ideologies, and then just what would you call it now? What are we? You said that we have socialist values. No, I need you to tell me.
I would call us an oligarchy more than anything else at this point, actually, or a corporatocracy. Perhaps would be a corporatocracy would be probably the best way to put it.
Why?
We're basically cyberpunk without the cool tech. It's just corporations are basically kingdoms, and they all fight
the
each other.
dystopian future with none of the neon.
Yeah, it's like you have like 6, main big giant, companies that own everything else. That owns like one companies who own their stuff. So it's like everybody owns something, and then 6 companies own all those companies, so they end up owning everything anyway. So it's cyberpunk.
Yeah.
With the mini kingdoms.
Monopoly. Yeah. KB Dubs, this is a really interesting question. Evil is when you could build 500,000 homes for the homeless and buy 1 billion meals for every starving and still be a billionaire yourself, and you still don't do it. What do you think? Because I know that when you win the lottery, there's like just rules of the best way to do it. Pick your money up anonymously. Make sure you get all the money at once and not do like the distribution over time. Make sure that because like what happens is every single person who's ever met you tries to take a piece of that money. People will try to sue you to get a hold of that money. Greed brings out the worst in people. I would hate to win the lottery for what everything else that it does. And the majority of lottery winners end up going bankrupt. At what point when you have $1 billion, what are you expected to fix? Because I feel like everyone is coming to them being like, this is how you should spend your money. I know that, is it Bill Gates' Bezos' first wife? Bill Gates' wife? One of them has been doing extensive charity work with money.
Bezos' wife, because Bezos hates donating to charity, so when they divorced, she just donated a ton to charity because she knew he'd hate it.
But like $500 million to charity, like game-changing money, like can actually fix a lot of shit.
I'm pretty sure she donated like 80% of what she got in the divorce. It was a ton.
And what she's done is that shown that it's actually fucking possible to live quite comfortably on 20% and then use that 80% to make such a difference. And I guess the question that I have is every single day that Elon Musk, who's worth something like $327 billion, I just watched The Social Network recently, and Mark Zuckerberg is worth something like $281 billion. Every single day that there are vast communities that are starving, or, you know, all the problems that could be addressed are not being fixed, does that make them worse? Like, what is this? Tim, you got thoughts?
Well, I just want to say, and I'm not a fan of Zuckerberg, and I'm not a fan of Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, but it is worth mentioning that they're worth $1 billion. But that only means that if they could liquidate all of their assets,
which is what we've been talking about. Yeah.
But there's no way they could ever actually liquidate all of their assets. It's just not possible. So I get what you're saying, and they certainly could obviously do a lot of good, and they actively choose not to. But I hate saying that they just don't spend money. They don't have money. They don't have cash like the rest of us, right? I would much rather elevate people like Mark Cuban, who is a billionaire, but he's also trying to take down the pharmaceutical industry from the inside out.
Yep.
And if you've just listened to him talk about that and economics and things like that, like, I would vote for Mark Cuban for president in a second if he ran. Like, he's just, like, I would rather elevate billionaires like that than
he was actually in Billions a bunch of times.
Than worship Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg.
It's
That's
like,
just me.
A lot of that was addressed in the book. Like, this money isn't real. Wealth and money are two different things.
Yeah,
But again,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
depending on who the billionaire is and what their wealth is. Say somebody owns a trucking industry. All right, guess what? Don't charge to ship. Suddenly food is cheaper, gas is cheaper, everything's cheap. You own 50 apartment buildings. Guess what? House the homeless and charge zero rent. So there are ways they could help, but they choose not to. They choose to keep profit.
Yeah.
And that's where I have problems.
Yeah. Yep.
Add on to that, the whole thing with like TikTok and everybody, like the whole thing with like people going to Red Note, is people are also realizing the cost of food in a lot of places in China is like pennies compared to where it is here in America, where it's like the same amount of food that you probably would have to spend $150 to $200 on, they'd spend maybe like $20-$30.
Yeah. And also the preservatives that are being put into food in America. As someone who hasn't lived in this country, the food in this country is shit house. It took me 3 or 4 years to not taste sugar in milk and bread. Milk lasts, I always have this argument, milk lasts 6 weeks in America. It lasts 10 days in Australia. Milk should not last 6 fucking weeks. Like, it's a fresh produce. It's insane what's being put in milk to make it last that long. Anyway, great conversations around this. I really do. I'm learning things, which I love as well. Gaia says the conversations around villains and morality were the times where it was obvious Scalzi had studied philosophy, which he did at the University of Chicago. We're talking about, you know, billionaires and wealth not being the same. Avery says nothing can exist in totality. There are way too many variables and everything changes too quickly and too often for one system to work in totality for every situation. And that's why most of these concepts exist in theory rather than in practice. President Biden looked at the camera and said that we're an oligarchy on live television. So, Avery says also America is just 3 companies in a trench coat. Yeah. I want to talk about my dream that I had recently. It was like future casting. It was future forecasting in a way where it was like maybe 100 years in the future, not even. And what had happened, because I think this was based on the studies that are happening where less and less people are having children. So the population is going into a decline. Suck on that, Thanos. Because compared to like 30 years ago, the age of being in a state to be coupled up and to start a family is getting later and later. The age of women having children is getting a little bit later and later. Or the amount of people and women not opting to have children at all has drastically increased. And it's basically because more and more people are single and staying single for longer. And this is not just in America, this is global. The report that was done, there's a decline everywhere. And that just planted a little seed in Maude's brain when she was having a dream. You're shaking your head again, Jeff.
It's not everywhere. It's in developed countries.
No,
it's not like in less economically advantaged countries. Birth rates are still very.
I might need to find it because they did show. Oh, man, I could be remembering things wrong, and I've got another story in my back pocket where I watched a video once, and I'm going to try and regurgitate it, and I might get it wrong. That would also make sense. But essentially, yeah, Elon Musk is like, oh my gosh, thank God I have 13 children because I'm going to populate this planet single-handedly. Now,
all hate him.
Yeah, in my dream, what had happened is kind of like a Wall-E kind of thing, where everyone's just floating around watching a computer and just getting very fat and sassy. In my dream, everyone was basically addicted to their personalized AI. And everyone had, kind of like in the movie, is it Her? Where Scarlett Johansson is Joaquin Phoenix's sort of like AI companion. Because the algorithms are so tailored to the individual, the AI was the most perfect thing that you could have. You could not find, because people are flawed. And this algorithm, your AI partner, was not flawed. And so no one was procreating. Everyone was basically dedicating their lives to this algorithm that was going to serve them at the most optimal level. And what was happening was that people were isolating. There were no more families. People were not reproducing at all. Now, Elon Musk is doing Starlink. And in my dream, Starlink became free global. Everyone had access to the internet, but it was fueled through one company. And what he started doing was infiltrating and permeating into the algorithm so that he was subtly brainwashing every single person through their addiction to their AI companion, started like brainwashing people and creating sort of like an army and an uprising through that. Anyway, I woke up and I was like, we're fucked. I was like, oh God. Well, this is kind of, I don't know how science fiction that is, but that's the dream that I had. And that's what got me a little bit scared. Yes. I'll just read this comment from Jeff real quick. It says, I was wrong as of now. In the last few years, birth rates have actually dropped worldwide. You are right. I'm also open to being wrong. And that brings me to my next story about billionaires. I was on TikTok. Chronically on TikTok. And there was a speaker. This speaker basically is, I believe, like an economist who deals with like futurist technology and futurist economies and predicts where we're going as a society. And he got booked to basically speak to billionaires. And he thought he would do his slated talk to a room full of people. Not the case at all. In his green room, before he was about to step onto this stage that didn't exist, 5 billionaires came into his green room and just started firing off questions. And he's like, kind of caught me off guard, but they were genuinely interested to not having the masses hear these answers. They wanted to pick my brain about where the state of the world was going. All the questions were, how long do we have? Where is the best place in the world to bunker down? Where is the safest place in the world to bunker down? Do you realistically think we can get off this planet? All of the questions were about, how can I protect me and my loved ones when things inevitably go to shit? And in this video, the guy was going, not one of these billionaires who have a combined wealth that can change the course of life as we know it. Not one of them asked what we can do to improve. Not one of them asked what steps they could take to make this a better place. Every single one of them had whether it's nihilistic or a defeatist or a realistic, they had whatever they knew that it was not going well. And it was about how to protect and to basically like build sub-colonies with select people that they know to look after sort of a contained colony of their people. And what was the best way to go about that? And that, most of them didn't even want to stay on the earth because the planet was so doomed, according to them. That one stuck with me. That really sat with me, where it's like, you're picking someone's brain who could have solutions. Everyone's recognized there's a problem, and the only solutions that they could figure out was how to protect the people that they choose deserve protection to kind of like get through things. Is our cult moving to Mars? Keep It Up says, and this is why we read funny, whimsical books.
Cult is not moving to Mars. We're sending Musk and his ilk so that we can unfuck the planet.
Yeah. Alt Marta says, you guys really need to read Stark. Okay, I want to hear about Stark. Terry says, I just remembered the ending of Don't Look Up. The wealthy end up on a new planet and just get owned by the local wildlife. Yeah. Billionaire Creed is, we're not here for a long time, says Catch-22. We're here for a good time. I just thought that was really scary, where it's like you actually have the money and the means to change the course or to build in infrastructures or to build in sort of like ways to help everyone. But no. Just the select few that they deem worthy to help. And they will isolate themselves and they will just build a new little world and lock everyone else out. And the other questions that they had to this guy was, how can I stop the masses from turning on me when I do this? Like, how can I make sure that the masses stay away and leave me alone? And he was like, but you put them in this problem to begin with. You are directly responsible for this happening. Of course, they're going to be mad at you because you could have done something about it and are actively choosing not to. Guy says, at least there's one thing I know. I am not evil. Yeah, I think sometimes the wrong people are making that kind of money. I had that theory where if you're very, very popular and very, very good at social media and you put yourself out there a lot and you enjoy talking to the camera and sharing your life, please don't look at me too intently when I say that. You have to be very, very successful at it and love it. Let's like Jake Paul. It's like the Jake Paul mantra. You cannot do that without being a narcissist. You cannot be successful like that unless you truly do not believe what millions of people are writing to you. Because if you don't believe that thing, then it doesn't exist. And I think billionaires, it's like you really do have to have morally gray, at minimum morally gray, to be able to make that kind of money, I think. In Maude We Trust says, okay, let's build the better future together instead. The fact that your name is In Maude We Trust and you're saying shit like that, like I want to switch off this computer and run. Does Aaron have his hand up? Do you? Let's go.
So on what you were saying just a moment ago about like, all these billionaires like not asking the right question of like, how can we improve things? It's like, how can we save ourselves? And I just remember this one bit from Fallout 4, because if anybody's played any of that or played any or even watched the show, all the vaults from Vault-Tec, most of them are social experiments, and only like a few small control groups that are like actually like, sealing people away to like, let them survive nuclear apocalypse. One of those social experiments was you take all of these like, important millionaires, billionaires, politicians, like these like people who like have been on a pedestal their whole lives, have been always controlling everybody else, and now they're in these cramped, confined places, like, it's like 5 per room type of things. Everybody has to share a communal shower, that, that whole type of setup. And the person running the vault would be just the worst idea of a leader. Like, somebody who's actually the conspiracy theory of like, I don't believe in government and I wear this tin hat so they don't listen to my thoughts and all that kind of stuff. And they're in charge. It's like, I would find that most like hilarious irony if that ever happened to these billionaires today. It's like they were like seal themselves away, but then they end up sealing themselves in a situation where they're no longer in control. It's whoever's running the place they're in.
It's so funny because one of the theories is that Australia is not real. The whole country, it's fabricated. It's a lie. And anyone who says that they're Australian is actually a paid actor. Now, there's an Australian billionaire. She's a mining heiress. Is she an heiress? She basically like constructs all the mining that happens. Gina Reinhardt is her name. If the Australian billionaire met with the conspiracy theorist, is she technically real? All of that's just wild. Now, Alt Matter said about Stark, It is a cabal of billionaires trying to escape the planet as it dies, but it's funny, and apparently was made into a miniseries in Australian television in the 90s, and all the who's who is in that. I never read it. One of the quotes in this book, and this is what I think, if we take away anything from this book, it is this. The dedications of the book. This book is dedicated to everyone who could make someone else's day worse, but tries to make it better. It really does come down to consistent little things that add compassion, positivity, kindness. That's how we combat all of this. So when we're like, oh, fuck, the world's doomed, what are we all doing? We actively try to do little kind things every day. And that's how we make this place a little bit better. It's the little things, like gift subs, says KP Dubs. Exactly. It is. It's just for someone making someone feel seen, special, welcome. And we all do such an amazing job of that in this community, which I love. A couple of other fun facts about the author after the book is that apparently the part in the book where everyone was like saying how they would spend the money and like ways to be a better villain and all that, and they got yeeted when it was a bad idea. That was actually from the video game Deathloop. Now, I played Deathloop for about 3 hours, but John Scalzi is a big gamer and loves Deathloop and was like, there was like either a cutscene or like dialogue that was happening where that sort of was like what was going on. And he's like, I totally took it from that. So thank you to Deathloop. Wow, what was the other thing? Did I write it down? There was one other thing that was inspired by. He had COVID in the middle of writing the book as well. A friend of his has a cat where they had the sound buttons, the word buttons. So it's like, hello, hungry, now, mama. And like the cat pushes to make the sentence to say what it's thinking. That's how he got the idea for Hera and Persephone. I thought that was really funny.
Hey, listen.
Exactly. Has anyone read any other John Scalzi books? Because apparently this is sort of his. No, neither had I. People are saying that it's usually quite short and fun. About the author, John Scalzi, having declared his absolute boredom with biographies, disappeared into a puff of glitter and lilac scent. It's the best bio ever. Oh, that's really fun. There are a bunch of fantastic quotes as well. Last question is like naming of pets. I really like this one here because there was a discussion earlier in the book. Oh, you went the goddess route. When people name cats, they usually do it in one of 3 categories: food, physical characteristics, or mythology. Now, mythology, I believe, is a very stretched blanket of things. Like Zelda would technically be a part of mythology because it's, even though it's fictional, it's lore, I suppose. Do you agree with that? Food, physical characteristics, or mythology? Sound off. What are your pets' names?
I had a cat growing up that we called Butter.
Hey, food. All right. What else we got?
All my pets have had human names.
What, you call a cat Craig?
I had a dog named Buddy. He was named after Buddy Holly, the singer.
Yeah.
I had a cat named Ryan.
Okay, it's unacceptable. That's unacceptable.
It was spelled R-I-A-N.
Okay, after Ryan Johnson.
Ryan.
Yeah.
And then my friend Carrie, her cat's name is Piper.
Piper's cute. I've got a friend who's got a dog called Dan. I got so angry. I got so angry at that.
And I had a kitten literally named Kitten. I was lazy on that one.
That's absolutely unacceptable. What are other pet names?
Phoenix.
Mythology. Unless it's a location.
We've got one right now that's named Bibble. I don't think it falls into any of those categories. But we've also used foreign words to name cats. We had one that was really loud. So my mom named him La Bouche. We had one that well, my sister had one. She just gave the Japanese name for cat to it.
Hold on, I know this. Kobuta, tanuki, tanuki, kitsune, kitsune, neko. Japanese for cat. Neko. Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that maybe we didn't fall into a lot of those categories. There is one here, though, that's named Earl, Earl Grey.
Food!
Yes.
There it is.
So I guess he falls into that category.
KPW's, my ex-cousin-in-law's dogs are named Ruger and Winchester, which are firearms.
Donut from Dungeon Crawler.
They're Labradors. They're hunting dogs, so they named them after their guns.
Star Pilot 6 had a cat named Machka, which means cat in Macedonian. That's really cool. Machka. I like that. So yeah, no. Food, physical characteristics, or mythology. Robin, you said Albus, which is mythology, and Cosmo, which is named after a character in Singing in the Rain. Mythology, fiction it should be, or I don't know, myth and lore. I don't know. All right, that was another fun thing. How did you feel about the ending? We have barely gone into twists, and I knew this would happen when I started ranting. Sorry about that. But the twists that were happening here, Charlie was able to unionize the dolphins, who then took the success of being heard and listened to finally and feeling like they were had their needs met, took it to the whales, who were working for the opposition. So we're able to kind of like stop that one. All the crates were empty. I kind of saw that one coming. I did not think that was a mystery. But none of it was Charlie's doing. It was everyone operating and working around him, and he was just the figurehead who honestly was kept in the dark and was made sure that he felt and looked stupid, and that it was believable that he couldn't come up with all of these things because he wasn't. How did you feel about that in the end? It was just merely being roped into it because he was literally the only person.
Very like Dante's Inferno, where it's like he's just there for the ride.
Yeah. But he had everything happen. He got his pub. He got his happy ending, I suppose.
Well, as a way of saying thank you for being a good pawn and playing along and not dying. Here's your reward.
Yeah. Not fucking it up. What our plan was.
I think that's all he would have wanted. I don't think he would have been happy staying the head of that corporation.
No. No, because his moral compass was quite intact. Yeah, he was not happy to do that. And they're like, great, we planned for that. Excellent. I do like Till. Till gives very strat. Till is, a woman who gets shit done and is 5 steps ahead and knows what needs to be done and is happy to make those calls. I liked that a lot. I thought she was a fantastic character. What was my other question? The ending, the unionization.
Maude, the physical book had a bonus story called Hera Baldwin Gets a Financial Advisor. Did you have that?
No. How big is it? Can we read it?
It's like 12 pages. I'm not going to read it, but you're following this financial advisor, and he's kind of like low man on the totem pole at his company, and his boss is always watching TikTok in his office instead of doing stuff. But this weird email account keeps showing up and saying like, hey, sell my stocks in this and then buy this property. And he's like, goes to his boss. He's like, this is like a terrible, terrible idea. Well, should I warn her? And he's like, hey, she's got the money. She's telling you what to do. She's not asking for advice. Just do it. And of course, it makes millions. And so after a while, all these like long shot schemes keep making millions. And so he ends up getting promoted. His boss gets shoved off to some side job. And then he actually goes to meet Hera because she just lives in this little house in Chicago. It makes no sense because she's like a billionaire based on all the transactions. And he goes there and there's just Charlie and these 2 cats. And he's like, I'm sorry. But anyways, you should try to find it and try to read it because it was a really, really good way to end the story.
It's also in the ebook version.
Vaden, where did you find it? Because you listened to it, didn't you?
Yeah, I listened to it too, but I also read it. Like, I have the audiobook and I have the ebook essentially.
Oh, wow.
on my library app. So I get library a lot of times the same books I listen to just so I can read, catch up things, find things for quotes, and then occasionally
That's
stuff like this.
smart.
Which it's nice, and unfortunately it doesn't appear in audiobook. It sucks, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and source that. That would be a lot of fun. I thought I had one more thing. We are over in time already. Oh, well, I mean, I was kind of wondering that. Does Hera, is she morally okay and intact because she saved Charlie at the end? She made sure that Charlie was not sort of taken care of in that particular way, but was taken care of financially and didn't have to be banished to unknown lands. The fact that she's in this last chapter finding billions that she can never spend, is she a good character, or can she get away with it because she's a fucking cat?
I think it's all stocks, right, and stuff like that. She's not really like, or investing in things. She's not actually like keeping money from people, as far as I know. But I think it's the difference in how she makes them. But yeah.
Snores, you've got a theory for the bequest at the end there. You don't think it's Jake at all?
Yeah, I think it's. I don't think Jake or even the Dubois or whatever his name is,
Dubois,
even Till didn't really take care of or weren't planning to take care of Charlie in the way that
hey, it's disposable.
Actually did.
Yeah.
And then Hera actually like arranged it so that he's financially okay.
I actually love that even though she was going to leave, she respected him so much because he looked after her. And she's like, I finally get to be able to... You hearing this, Zelda? Finally be able to...
I don't know if you ever watched the movie, but it's very Brewster's Millions in a weird way. Like, not exactly, but it feels like the ending part of that movie.
No, I don't know that one.
It's basically a guy has a rich uncle, basically gives him a challenge. If you can spend $30 million in 30 days with having no assets, not a penny to your name, and you can have receipts showing you spent all this money, and there's other stipulations, you get $300 million.
Wow.
But the joke or the thing that the great uncle gives to him is, you will hate money so much by the end of this month, you will not want the 300 million. And he's pretty much right, because that's how it ends. It's starring Richard Pryor and John Candy.
Yeah, and he pretty much only wanted it at the end because it was out of spite, because like there was people like trying to rig the game against him, so he ends up penniless at the end no matter what.
One final thought with this as well. Jake Baldwin, the uncle. There was a description in there that he was asexual, right? Like, didn't have kids, wasn't interested in that at all. It made me think that maybe asexuals can actually really change the world for the better, because Jake was so important in this particular moment. Jeff, you sort of touched over this a little bit. Jake was using his position and using all of the money to create as much peace as possible in this chaotic environment. For someone having that amount of power and for kind of like staying alive, he just died from, was it bowel cancer? Like, you know, and had control over the way that he died. But being able to stop so much shit from happening, the fact that it could happen was enough. The threat was that it could. It never actually had to happen. So the most powerful person we can actually have in the greater scheme of things is someone like Jake Baldwin, who knows how bad things could get and seizes that control in a way to stop it from being worst case scenario, keeps everything at bay as much as possible. Now, someone said that Jake was not a villain but an anti-hero. I think Jake's a goddamn hero. You know?
Well, he's like an anti-hero in that he doesn't act in like, you know, the typical big, showy, flashy, heroic way of like, you know, saving cats from trees kind of thing. He's like doing stuff behind the scenes kind of stuff.
He's making the most positive impact on the planet, and no one even knows his name or what he does.
Pretty much.
That we need actually more
like
Jakes.
Hero is like basically somebody who does the heroic stuff but never gets the recognition for it, and doesn't do it in the traditional fashion of like, you know, the noble hero kind of thing. He's chaotic good, where he will like you described earlier, he'll disrupt things for the betterment of people.
Avery does bring up a good point. Anti-unionizer, though. He was not treating those dolphins very well. There was a lot of disdain. Those dolphins could have said anything, and they chose 4 words repetitively. None of them nice. So that was a direct correlation from the leadership that was there. Yeah. No, I actually really liked it. I feel like we're all on the same page. It's around at least a 4, if not 4.5 kind of book. It was fun. It was quick. The pacing was great. It kept you sort of into it. It's a nice reminder that just because you have lots of money doesn't mean you're smart. And that, you know what, it's maybe not the worst thing if we're not billionaires. That's not so bad. Alrighty, on that note, it led to a great book club discussion. Thank you, Avery. You know me, I sometimes get a little ranty. Just a reminder, let's get started on Lightbringer. We are going to be reading this book. I believe it's the first, oh my God, like 42 chapters or something ridiculous like that, that we need to get. Jeff physically face palmed in the video. That's great. It is just 42. 42 chapters by next Thursday. Now, there might even be a TBD because I was supposed to support a friend's concert that's happening in LA. And of course, it was last week and got postponed. And I believe the postponed date is next Thursday. So I'm going to have to TBD on that one because it does start at 7. So maybe we just do half an hour earlier and I can get over on time so we don't mess up too much. Not sure just yet. So we'll keep it posted. Obviously, members will be deciding if any changes do happen. How does it best support those who can vote to make those changes? Sorry, this month is still a little bit confuddled. It's still a little bit all over the place. But I really appreciate your help navigating the next 2 weeks. 42 chapters is 347 pages, which is roughly the same as Starter Villain. Fantastic. Okay, we are reading.
Page 394.
Oh my God. Where's the sound of the page? Where's the sound of the page? I feel like you got. Thank you. Okay, well, I'm going to stop turning the pages. Yes, read Lightbringer. Keep it posted onto the Discord. Okay, that's it. You read the book. The whole book's read. Excited to talk about Lightbringer again. A reminder, Piers Brown will be on for a 1-hour Q&A. If you're a member, you get to ask Piers questions pertaining to Lightbringer, which is a lot of fun. February, we'll be doing Mist and Fury, I believe. Lisa, what's it fucking called?
A Quarter Wings of Ruin.
Wings and Ruin! We'll be doing some more Akatar. I listened to it not long ago, so that's fine. Will I change it out for Onyx Storm? No. I don't know. I want to read them all, and I will read them all.
One more swear, Maude. One. You can do it.
He was hanging.
Now she's like, I'm not going to cheapen it like that.
I've got 999 swears that I have accrued over the years. Game on. We have a gaming session Saturday afternoon, 3 till 5-ish. We're going to be playing 2 different games. That'll be a lot of fun. We've got another one scheduled in for the Friday afterwards as well. Thank you for this discussion. For such a light book, it was a really real conversation, and I always appreciate that from this club. All right, everyone, let's try to raid into someone, huh? Who's streaming? What do we got happening? Oh, that's fun. Okay, sorry, but there is a Twitch page dedicated to, it's called Games Done Quick, and it's speed races for games, and they're playing The Legend of Zelda. So I'm going to raid into that one. I don't know. It's irrelevant.
I can let you.
Irrelevant. It's The Legend of Zelda. So if that's your jam, fantastic. Enjoy. I will see everyone next week. See you in the Discord. Fuck yeah.